12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday, helping seniors of Brevard, and we've got a good show planned for you today. I'm John Harper. Let's get the show going with the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of the show, Kerry Fink. And Kerry, it seems like everybody always likes that music. They start jumping around there in the studio, right?
I call it the music of your life. You know, what can I say? It's all good. Thanks, John Harper. It's always pleasant to gather here on the radio. It's a lovely day, and it's always a good day to be here on 90.3 FM WEJF. It's our Wednesday lunchtime gathering where we get to talk Helping Seniors Radio and good senior information radio. We also want to welcome the listeners who are joining us online at wejf.net, and also those who come back later, the growing number of listeners who find us as a podcast, because we take these programs and make sure they're available on Apple iTunes and Alexa and iHeartRadio, Spotify, even Facebook podcasts. We're there, and we even stick them on our Helping Seniors of Brevard YouTube channel. So welcome to you if you're listening there as well. And in the studio, we have a really important show that we have actually been talking about a couple of weeks. So together with our operations director, Nancy Deardorff. How are you today, Nancy?
I'm well, Kerry.
We have a lot to talk about today, and we have some very special guests that we're going to be able to talk about this. Well, we've been talking for a couple of weeks, looking forward to this date, because I don't think many people in Brevard County really understand that we have a pretty severe housing crisis going on. And I'm going to introduce our guest, but I'm going to actually ask Nancy to kind of set the stage, because you handle more than 300 calls a month coming in on our Helping Seniors Community Senior Information Helpline. And lately you're getting more and more calls about the challenges seniors face when it comes to affordable housing. And so I'm going to introduce our guest. I'm going to come back and ask you to talk about that. We have with us by telephone, I want to introduce to you Vinnie Richardson. She works with an organization called Housing Foundation America Incorporated. Hello, Vinnie. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are yourself?
So good. You know, she's a new friend to Helping Seniors because I had the privilege of meeting her. We were all together for a grant proposal meeting with the Brevard CDBG, and we had the chance to talk together. And she goes, you know, a lot of the programs, she goes, there's a lot of HUD money and things out there, but most people, if you don't know how to get it, you don't know how to get it and get the help. And we got into a conversation about this affordable housing crisis. And she said, you know, it really breaks my heart to see a senior be able to go into foreclosure. And she goes, so often it doesn't have to happen. So we're going to come back, because I really consider, Vinnie, what you're doing actually part of a solution as we get into that. But I also want to take a moment and introduce our other guest. And how this radio program came to be is because not only is Phil Koechlein a volunteer with AARP, he's really headed up for years. Ever since I've known you, Phil, you've kind of been the voice of AARP strongly in this area. You're the one that people see out at events, and you do so much for AARP. But many people may not know that your role, another role that you carry and volunteer, is you are the vice chair of something called the Brevard Commission on Aging. I don't think the average public even knows necessarily what that is. Now, our president and founder, Joe Steckler, years ago when he was building the Joe's Clubs and all that, I think he was actually a director or whatever you call the main person of that. But ever since I've been involved in that, which must be close to 10 years now, you've been right there with Dr. Potomsky, who is the chair. So I want to welcome you to the show, but also get you to say a hello and what Brevard Commission on Aging is.
Well, good morning. Good afternoon. Excuse me. Commission on Aging is basically a group of people representing all the various areas of the county, whether it be law, whether it be medical, with various agencies that are also helping seniors and so on throughout. And as a group, we try to get together and discuss various problems that we have and that we see forthcoming, and try to figure out some direction that we might be able to help the county approach those problems and come to a solution.
Exactly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in the show, because actually those meetings are absolutely open to the public. We encourage the public to be there. It's one great way to get involved in the challenges. But actually, the reason this program started, Phil, as you know, is we were in a recent Brevard Commission on Aging meeting where everybody, it had come up because staff within the Brevard Health and Human Services Division was talking about the challenges that they're having with phone calls about housing. There was a lady who does some work with Aging Matters who was in there saying the same thing. And then I remember coming out of the meeting and talking with Nancy Deardorff, our operations director, and she's, you're preaching to the choir. This is what I'm hearing. And so, Nancy, I wanted to kind of kick off this discussion by having you kind of explain a little bit what you're seeing on the phones.
Yes, it's just amazing to me the change in the subject of the phone calls we get to our senior helpline that I've seen occur just over the last few months. And where I used to get a lot of calls for transportation, still do. We still have a variety of phone calls coming in because we at Helping Seniors of Brevard are here for whatever resources a senior may need, whether it be I need a good elder care attorney, legal matters, financial questions, household, healthcare, medical connections. We can make those connections. But just in a short amount of time, I saw the calls for more of a variety type of issues. I just never knew what I was going to get when I picked up the phone. It's almost consistently now regarding housing, and specifically seniors or someone that loves them seeking a place to live. And the majority of those calls are folks that have a place to live right now, which is very temporary, and they in some cases have lived there for years, and their rents have gone up to the point where they can no longer afford to stay where they've lived sometimes 5-10 years. So it's very heartbreaking because not only do they have to up and leave their home that they've called home for quite a while, they're having difficulty finding a place to live that's affordable. And I try to educate my callers, not to scare them, but to bring them up in the know, because one of the things we do is educate and inform, and then connect them to resources. And what I'm finding on these calls is folks will be on a fixed income. For instance, Social Security may be their only income, and an $800-900 per month rent is now going to $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 a month. But even with Social Security increases, those increases are not keeping pace with the increases in rent. Years ago, when rents would go up $50 every year, that's no longer. They're going up $100, $200, $300, and sometimes in very short notice. So the problem is multifaceted. It's not just a matter of affordability. Problem A is there's not enough housing, period. So I try to help them find what is open, what's available. That's a challenge in and of itself. And then on top of that, what can they afford? And there just simply is not enough affordable housing for many. But since we are helping seniors of Brevard, I will say for seniors for sure. We do not have enough housing for the elderly, Section 202 housing. Section 8 housing, there's no wait list right now at all. They're not even taking applications to get on a wait list.
Wow.
So the people that call me are many times very desperate and a hair's breadth away from homelessness. Those are those calls. Then there's the other calls where they're already homeless. People that are in their 70s and 80s and even 90 calling me where they have no house and they are literally living in their car in a parking lot somewhere. So that's what I'm dealing with, and it's daily. It's daily when I take these calls, where it used to be a couple times a week. Now it's daily. That is the vast majority of the calls I'm getting.
You know, it's really it must be tough to be homeless at any age. So I could imagine, maybe you're 30, 40, you hit a bad streak, something, upended your life, and you're homeless. I cannot imagine what it must be to be in your 80s and you're now, you have no place to go and you're on your own and you're battling everything that you're battling with health and everything else. And now we're going to throw this on top? You don't even have a place to rest your head. It's a real challenge in this community. And I was talking with Phil Koechlein, who's here in the studio with us today, before we were on the air. And I said, so I would call this an extremely prosperous moment in our history, right? The property values are going skyrocketing. If we have a home, we're thrilled, right? Because our home is worth so much more than it was. It makes us feel richer, and maybe that's a good thing. But what's also happening that is kind of like the underbelly of that we don't talk about a lot. And again, today on the radio show, I don't know that we're going to have a boatload of solutions. I'm really looking forward to talking with Vinnie to hear, because she's got some. She goes, Kerry, there is so much HUD money and programs available. She sent me a brochure that has literally like 20 different programs, and she said, but I love it because this is something Nancy Deardorff says all the time. She said, how do you know what you don't know? So if you don't know a program exists that maybe could help you, it's of no value to you. That's why we have to have this conversation. But today what we want to do is get this conversation on the table seriously, because while our home prices are going up and that makes us feel wonderful, the problem is, and if you have a home, it means your property tax went up and your insurance bill went up. So you are actually having some extra costs, even if you're just a homeowner. Okay, but now let's spin it around. Somebody comes in and buys the property that you've been renting for 5 or 10 years. They're not being mean. They're not trying to price gouge you. They're not trying to do something unethical. But guess what? Because of what they had to pay for that property, now they've got to find some way, because they have to pay their bank or whatever the story is that they're into and get that return. So they have to take care of that. They also don't even have the benefit of a homestead exemption. So their property taxes are just going through the roof. And then the insurance is more expensive. So that's all fine, and you want to pass it along to your tenant. But what if your tenant is just existing on Social Security? It's a trap. Everybody is just flat stuck, Phil.
Well, what I'm hearing about is that we were getting over 1,000 people a day moving into Florida alone. Mm-hmm. This has become a center for people to get away from the Northeast or wherever else may be living. And part of that problem is they're also, in a long run, they're going to be part of this problem too, because as costs go up. Yeah. If they come here thinking they have an advantage and they arrive, that advantage is disappearing very rapidly. We're seeing the fact that with all these people coming in here, that not only are those rents going up, but some of the other side costs are just going through the roof in the process of it. If they need to do any modification to what they buy to a house, both there are supply chain problems to get the materials,
right?
Let alone the fact is that the cost of just an item, a 2x4 used to be what, 50 cents? Now
right.
Maybe I've heard it's $4 and $5.
Wow, unbelievable.
And that's partly talking a few months ago when we really had the problem, and they've come a little bit down again, but it's still there. The cost of everything has just gone to the moon. One of the other things we're hearing about too is that a number of people now are complaining the fact that their insurance costs on their house, their annual monies and so on for paying for their their house, their actual property tax.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But the property taxes are going to the point that some of them are saying they're doubling.
Yeah.
And if that comes into effect, not only are these people that are just on the borderline, they're being pushed over because of these side costs that are involved. Plus, the people that own those homes now are going to go after even more money because they have to cover that bill as well.
Yeah, everything you're saying makes so much. So it's just really accenting the point we're trying to make. This is a challenge. I have heard Joe Steckler, our president and founder, be on the phone with a senior who's maybe up in New Jersey or they're up in Illinois, and they're saying, okay, I'm going to put everything up. I want to come down to Florida where the weather's nice. And he's counseled them, said, this is not your move, because they're trying to get, because their first question is, how do I get the housing vouchers? How do I get the How do I get the meal vouchers? What entertainment options? And Joe's like, that's what you paid your taxes in New Jersey for. You have to use those programs here because they're not as ubiquitous here. Now, there are a lot of good programs, and that's why I'm excited now to actually invite Vinnie Richardson with Housing Foundation of America to really be into this conversation, because as we were talking and just sharing this problem when we were at this countywide meeting, she goes, there are so many programs. There's never probably been a time where there's been more dollars available, but if you don't know how to position and get into them, then you're still going to be fighting the problem. So, Vinnie, with that, could you explain a little bit about Housing Foundation America? I know you guys just did a Zoom training session where you were helping people get an understanding of some of these programs.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, when we're let's look at the rent first, the increase in rent, how rent is outpacing the cost of living for our seniors. I'd like to address that first. Housing Foundation of America would like to hear from these people because there are various programs that can help qualify them to give them some type of relief from high rental costs, as long as within the cost of living, their cost of living. Also, there are programs that are available to help seniors to work with them in a comprehensive housing counseling program that Housing Foundation for America is bringing to Brevard County to help our seniors in their budgeting, their financial budgeting, to look at what their credit situation is. Some of them have really good credit, some of them not so good, in order to gauge what the next process is. It is a process, and as soon as we can hear from them and get them involved in the process to qualify them for any additional rental assistance, that some of them may be getting rental assistance now through the county, but as we know, those funds are going to eventually deplete. And what Housing Foundations of America is going to do is we are establishing a relationship with the county so that these people will not become homeless if their situation has not improved, so that they will not become homeless once the funds run out to help them or once they have exceeded their amount of time that they can be on those types of programs, because it does require some type of a very large portion of comprehensive housing counseling. You have to reach into different programs that might be available from a federal and state standpoint. So as far as rental assistance is concerned and people needing rental help, they do need to call me or Housing Foundations of America, the 800 number, because they are HUD intermediaries. So they are in direct contact through HUD to make sure that the people who are falling through the cracks, that funds are received in our county so that we can help these folks out. One of the things that we talked about, you and I talked about, Kerry, and I sent you that flyer on, is the down payment assistance program. There are a number of down payment assistance programs that can be used to what we call bundle down payment assistance. If the county has, let's say you qualify for a $1,000 grant from the county. If the county has $20,000, well, guess what? The state has $20,000. The bank, who are required to put back into their community. Most banks now have some sort of down payment assistance and closing cost assistance program, in that we can reduce the amount of your mortgage and therefore qualify you for more home. 30% of your income that is thrown out the door when it comes to qualifying for a home for people whose income is within qualification range. So we're working with a lot of programs now, and we want to bring people in. We want it to be known when we have people, especially seniors, who are falling through the cracks and they're losing their apartments, they're losing their homes, and they're becoming homeless. And we have Housing Foundations of America has a direct link with HUD to let the HUD know that this community needs money to do this, and this community needs money to do that.
Yeah, I really thought when we had the opportunity to speak there, I thought you were really a godsend because with the amount of calls that I heard, some of the staff that works directly in the county, and hearing the same story from Nancy and the battle that she has to fight daily trying to find resources, and something that you said, Vinnie, is so important. We've had a theme as a charity organization this whole year. We call it getting your ducks in a row, and it kind of goes back to what our president and founder Joe Steckler has talked about, which is you got to make an aging plan. You can't do all these things last minute. And the same counsel that you were providing, saying, listen, we need to talk to you early on because you have so many more options. Nancy, you would probably totally agree with that.
Absolutely. A lot of calls I get, there's people needing housing, and they'll tell me I need to be out by next week. And I can help them, but to parrot what Vinnie was saying, it's a process. And I tell my callers that this is not an instantaneous fix. This is a process. So when I get a caller who says I have to be out by the end of the year or in 6 months, I thank them and I tell them I'm so thankful to them because they called early and they give me time to work with them and reach out to our community, good folks like Vinnie, folks at the county, and all of our other resources because, again, my famous saying, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to help our seniors too, and it is a process. So it takes a while for sometimes me to connect the dots and make the right connections with resources to be able to connect that caller with them. And that is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. So if somebody fears that they're going to be in trouble with housing by the end of the year in 6 months, now's the time to give me a call so I can connect you with those resources, not when you're a week or two out from being evicted. The other thing, if I can just make note of, is, Vinnie, I'm so grateful for you and for the Housing Foundation of America. So grateful. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Kerry told me all about you. And I do get calls from callers that own their own home, and in some cases, they've already been evicted because they didn't know that they had any way out of that process, where if they had called earlier, we might be able to help them hang on to their home. So that's another issue. I want people to know, if you're in fear and you own your home, with or without a mortgage, with the mortgage, usually people default, and you're in fear of maintaining that home and staying in it, that's the time to call me so I can connect you with these resources so you can hang on to that home.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I want to reinforce that because one of the problems has a lot of these people involved just don't think it's going to happen to them.
Right.
And that's the problem you have, is the fact that by the time you really realize what's going on, you're so far behind the 8 ball, you're not going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And that's a very important point being made here on the show today. If you think you're going to have a problem, if you're concerned about rent 3 months out, 4 months out, speak up now.
Yeah.
Get involved in it now, because when that time comes, you're not going to have much of an option at all because it's too late.
Yeah. And there's no shame in it. People are ashamed sometimes when they call me. There's no shame. I let them know this is not going to be a crisis. It is a crisis, and it's not just Brevard. It's not just Florida. It's the United States. They're not alone. And there's a stigma that someone slacked or didn't plan well for the future. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's happening right now with the housing situation was not fully predictable, and it's not their fault, and they should not be embarrassed. Call me.
Yeah, we're going to continue this conversation, give you some phone numbers that you're going to want to take down. So while we're in the mid-show break, grab yourself a pencil and a notepad or whatever, and we'll have some good tips for you on the other side of the break.
It's 12:33 on this Wednesday afternoon. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. As we get back to more of the show, here's the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and our host, Kerry Fink.
Thank you, John Harper, and welcome back to the second half of our Wednesday lunchtime gathering on 90.3 FM, WEJF, and welcome back if you're listening online. WEJF.net. And if you've been following along, I asked you just before the break to please get a pencil and a notepad or something that we can jot down some numbers. We're going to have some really good information. We've been having a great talk already with our guests who are in the studio because we really are trying to talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough. I'm calling it the affordable housing crisis we have here in Brevard. And to some people, you know, if you're just a person, you've been looking at buying real estate, you probably are aware that things have gone through the roof. But what we're trying to have folks maybe get an understanding of is, well, what if you're not in the real estate market, you're just trying to have a place to live, and all of a sudden somebody else has bought out the place that you lived for 5 or 10 years, and because of all the increased costs that they're having to carry, now they're telling you your rent is going to go up by $400 or $500. And if you're working, you say, well, I'll just take a second job. I'll work harder. I'll find some way to do this. But if you're a senior and you've got Social Security or you've got fixed income, that could be the difference between you eating and not eating. And that's what the crisis comes into. So in the studio with us today, first of all, we asked her to come off the phones for just a little bit and come in the studio and help us with this because you really are on the front lines of this. I'm talking about Nancy Deardorff, our operations director, and you get these calls firsthand.
I do. And, you know, people that are homeless or about to be homeless, I was talking with one of my callers yesterday, and it's not... There's people think, oh, you know, they didn't plan right, or they just didn't have good life skills, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's people who are facing homelessness, seniors that I talk with, or homeless, that actually have an income, a decent income. It's just that prices have gone up so high that rent is now more than their Social Security, which they may have been getting for 10 or 15 years. Mm-hmm. Or very close to what they're getting. So by the time you pay your rent, there's nothing left over for gas in their car, their electric bill, food. And I talked with a gentleman last week who does have housing, but things are so tight for him. Thank goodness he does own his own townhome, but things are so tight for him, he has cut down to 2 meals a day. And God bless him, he called his church and he said, I can no longer tithe. He had a conversation with his church to let them know I can no longer tithe because he didn't have that extra money with which to tithe. But what really struck me besides that was the meals. He cut himself down to 2 meals a day to save that money on food. And this should not be. It should not be for anyone, much less a senior who in many cases have physical disabilities or functional decline where they cannot work. They don't even have a shot at getting a job or are not computer. That's the other, and I won't get on this soapbox because I know this is about housing, but this is another issue I just want to throw out there for another show is everywhere you call and turn, it's, did you know that we have a website and you can do this on our website? A lot of seniors do not have a computer. Those who do aren't savvy at it. And I get a lot of calls from seniors saying, is there someone that will provide a basic computer course to seniors for free, because I can't afford it, just to show me how to navigate the web, because that's how we get our information now. So at Helping Seniors of Brevard, we're that link for you. If you don't have a computer, if you're not savvy, let my, the old phone book, Let Your Fingers Do the Walking, let me do that for you if you're struggling with that. I have not found a free or discounted class for seniors, but I can certainly do some research for you because I do have a computer and use it, and that's part of what I can do for seniors. But how do you get help if you don't have a computer and everything is based on the web? Yeah, it's very difficult.
Probably, Nancy, this is an area we as Helping Seniors probably need to step up and find resources. I know there's people in the county But we have a lot of good partners. We can probably come up with some way to make that happen.
Potentially through your senior centers.
Yeah.
They should be a big help.
That's who I usually refer them to,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
And that depends on if someone's available to provide that class, yes.
That's the thing I wanted to mention because Phil Koechlein's in the studio. Phil is a volunteer with AARP, kind of oversees a lot of things that happen in Brevard County as far as AARP goes, but also he is the vice chair of something called the Brevard Commission on Aging, which is the county authorized meeting of minds who are concerned about seniors and trying to find ways to navigate through some of the challenges that we all see in the county as it pertains to seniors. And you brought up a point during the break that is so important to what we were talking about in general. And you said that, there's a lot of feeling among seniors when we get backed into the corner about, our rents or our mortgage payments or tax payments or things like that we're thinking like, well, I did something wrong. And you brought up that it's really not.
No. The person sitting here talking to you over this phone was born in the mid-30s, so I'm no youngster myself. And so the audience out there know the fact is this, and I'm one step at times between the old chisel and a piece of granite as far as communication is concerned. And so a lot of computers and everything like this just absolutely scare seniors away.
Right.
And you add to that the fact that as back in the ages that most of the people now we're talking about with the need of seniors, they're from an age and so on that was just, we grew up thinking we could always be self-sufficient. And again, as you say, how did we get into this corner?
Yeah.
So, for gosh sakes, we have to get people to understand that it ain't the old world.
Yeah.
Just think of how a car has evolved since you've been driving yourself. Okay. Yeah. My mother originally, when she first did it and so on, they were still with a horse.
Wow.
And so you go on and on this way. So you take a look at everything that's happened to us. So just don't feel upset about yourself if you have a problem of age and so on. Realize everything has changed around you, and you have got to be able just to be with it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's why when the conversation we've been having also with Vinnie Richardson with Housing Foundation of America, we were talking about that she really has. First of all, she has a passion for seniors and helping the seniors navigate these challenges, but also the wisdom and experience of knowing where you go to solve some of these problems, and that maybe there is a program that we can match up to. But as we were talking about in the first half of the show, that's why it's so important to get ahead of that. And when I had the privilege of meeting her at the Brevard CDBG presentation meeting. This is a new organization. It's not a new organization. It's a new organization to Brevard County. So I kind of feel like we have a little bit of cavalry coming in over the hill. Vinnie, talk a little bit about some of the programs and things, and also how people can reach you.
Okay. First of all, there recently, in fact, today. I received an email from the HUD National Office that in April of 2022, which is just next month, there will be a new outreach campaign for folks who are struggling with their mortgage payment. There are funds that are available. It's just that we need to get them to the community, and we need to get them to the right source. And also, we can put a halt on, if we get it soon enough, we can put a halt on, and we can put a mandatory halt on foreclosures and evictions. We can contact the landlord or the servicer or, the lender, and we can say, once we've examined their situation and have interviewed them, counseled them, we can say, we have funds that we can make available to these people, but we're going to need, say, another 25 or 30 days before we can get it to them in order to bring them current, especially where the mortgages are concerned. So there's going to be a special outreach effort next month about that, beginning next month about that. We provide every opportunity that you need or every need that you have concerning housing, we do try to provide some type of services, direct services to you. But we do have to counsel you first. We have to bring you into a program that is specifically designed by HUD that will give us the information that we need in order to get you the full type of assistance that you desire. Now, if you need to contact me, you can contact me at 321-208-8445. That is the local number for Housing Foundations of America for Brevard County.
Would you repeat that, please?
321-208-8445. And don't be afraid to leave your name and phone number on this particular line. Leave it there because I'm in and out and moving around or talking on another phone just about all day.
You know, Vinnie, as you were saying that, I think you and Nancy are going to be best buddies because she does a lot.
So.
She does a lot of that same kind of work. She always promises calls. Like if you call our senior information line, if you don't get me, it's only because I'm on another call. I will call you back. And so with that, Nancy, let me also, because we asked everybody, get your pencil and piece of paper. If you missed any of these numbers, a great number to have, because Nancy will have this for you too, is the senior information number.
Yes. Well, let me first to parrot you a little bit. Yes, sometimes I am out of the office. I try to stay involved with our community in community events. And it's important for folks to know the reason that we do that is because the better educated we are here at Helping Seniors of Brevard, the more resources we know of, the better I can help my callers. So if you call and you get voicemail, I always tell my callers, I know how frustrating that can be. I've even got voicemails that like, another machine, nobody's answering, another voicemail. It means that I'm either on the phone helping someone and I won't interrupt my call, or I'm out of the office. I promise you, I call every missed call back. It's always helpful. I'll call back even a missed call with no message, but it's always helpful if you leave me a message regarding the general nature of your call, because oftentimes I can look up resources in preparation for calling you back, and I'll have them right away for you. So there are callers this week I owe a call back to. I know that. I was out of the office a lot Monday and Tuesday, so you'll be hearing from me today and tomorrow until every call is back. So if anyone wants to reach me, we can be reached at Helping Seniors of Brevard, 321-473-7770.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, that actually made me smile when you were talking about, we were out yesterday. We were out having fun, meeting a lot of people in the community. We were all over at Wickham Park Pavilion as part of Nina Varuso with Platinum Events Group, does a tremendous amount of work in the senior community with these great senior expos. And Phil, you were there yesterday too.
Yeah.
It was quite the turnout. It was beautiful weather, and we got to talk to hundreds and hundreds of seniors who stopped by the Helping Seniors table. We actually had the opportunity to have our raffle car out, one of our raffle cars out there. They let us take a brand new 2022 Mazda Miata out there, and everybody got photos up against it. It was just a pleasant day. That's our main fundraiser, because we are, in fact, a nonprofit, and without your help, we can't do the things we do. So we invite you to get involved in that. You can actually, it's another reason to call Nancy, is you can get your Helping Seniors car raffle tickets. If you don't have access to a computer, she can help you by phone with that. It's a great way to support the work of Helping Seniors. And I don't want to get so far over there, but Phil, I was actually thinking we really should ask at the next Brevard Commission on Aging meeting if Vinnie Richardson could come and speak.
I think that would be an outstanding idea. I really do.
Because this is such an
In
important...
fact, I'll make a phone call when this is over.
Good.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And then use the 208 number, Vinnie?
Yes.
Okay, I'm done. All right.
And also, if I can, please,
Mm-hmm.
if I can invite our seniors or anyone who's within your listening audience to a meet and greet at the Cocoa Library on Saturday morning between 9 and 12. And we'll also have a lot of the information, more information that I've talked about today. So Saturday, Saturday morning between 9 and 12. If you're out walking on the lake or something, just stop in and have a cup of coffee or whatever with us. And let's talk about the needs of our community and how we can best serve our seniors. They deserve better.
Yes.
Do you plan to meet in other parts of the county then as well, Vinnie?
Yes. Thank you for asking. Every Sunday between now, we're hoping for the next 6 months. Every Saturday, we're hoping for the next 6 months. We will be meeting at one of the libraries within the county.
Wow, great.
And that'll be from 9 to 12. It's a meet and greet, free refreshment, just to talk about what the needs of our seniors as well as the rest of the general population is concerned relative to housing. So on this month coming up, we now have Cocoa, the main library, main branch in Cocoa from 9 to 12 on the 2nd and the 16th of the month.
Great. And
Housing Foundation will be there.
Great. I'm going to make sure that we ask Nancy and you to connect on that, because we'll make sure that those dates, those events, those locations are out on the Helping Seniors Facebook page and the way we get word out to everybody in our community, because what you're doing is really the first, sometimes we may feel like that little kid with the finger in the dike trying to hold back all this water. But every time that we make a difference for a senior, we are actually making a huge difference in that person's life and keeping things going forward in a positive and constructive way for everybody. So I just personally want to thank you for the work that you're doing on this, Vinnie.
No problem. And we are senior. I am a senior myself. And sometimes we can't just sit behind the desk at the office. Sometimes we have to go out and meet people and talk to people. Some of them won't even discuss their problems with a stranger unless they've met you at some event or something. They don't want to discuss their problems. And a lot of times if you just are out there and you have a little refreshment, you'll find out a lot about, especially the seniors, that you wouldn't find about the general population of people. Really.
Yeah.
It's important that the seniors learn to talk, and as we said earlier in this conversation, they need to be able to speak out and actually say something for themselves.
Well, we have, that's one of the tenets of what we do with Helping Seniors. There's really three things we do as a nonprofit. Number one is we have the Senior Information Helpline. That's that free call to 321-473-7770. People often go, oh, that's like a referral line. Well, in a very simple case, sure. That almost never happens. It always involves multiple calls trying to make sure that we're getting somebody connected to the right resource. And we've been doing that now. We're in our 12th year of doing that. We've helped more than 4,500 families to date. But the second thing we do is why we ask you to pick up your copy of Senior Scene magazine, listen to the radio shows, find us on the Space Coast Government TV. We're trying our best to get the word out so that seniors and the people who love and care for seniors know these programs. But the third thing we do, Phil, is we're strongly advocating all the time on behalf of seniors, because we live in a county where 1 in 4 is over 65. Everybody agrees that counts as a senior. But even if you want to use AARP's definition of 50 plus, well, that's half of us, right?
Easily. We are. As a population, there's so many things out there that are so important to this conversation. And I want to take one other thing and say it here. We've given a couple phone numbers here. But please, to the audience, don't just take one phone number and stay with it and decide if you got somebody to give you a message that you don't have to call someone else too. Again, I go back to the fact of who we are, what we are age-wise, and so on. You've got to be able to work for yourself. So don't assume that somebody's going to carry through.
I love what you said there, Phil, because what I heard from Vinnie, and I know this to be true when I've had conversation with Nancy about the calls that she's managing, is that, you can't expect everybody to do everything for you. You need to help, but just like Vinnie said, one of the things that's so important is you have to be willing to put yourself through the hoops that she needs help with to make sure that you can line up with programs that are available.
Well, and may I add, I always give my callers, not all of them, but those who need it, homework. Someone calls me, they need housing for the future. I'll say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And there's specific calls I may need to make and follow up with that caller. And I let them know we're going to be chatting. It's not going to be just a phone call and goodbye. I'm going to be following up with you. So we're going to be friends here for a while. And here's your homework. This is what I want you to take care of. And some things have to be taken care of by the person themselves. I can't act on their behalf. So there is homework involved. And to your point, Phil, it's so true that people give up too easily. They get frustrated. They get a voicemail. I can't tell you how many times I get a phone call and someone says, I miss it. It goes to voicemail. I call them back and they're shocked that I called them back. Oh, thank you for calling me back. And they've called a couple numbers and they never heard back. I'm like, when did you call? 2 days ago. Call back. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Don't take no for an answer. And you're going to have to get involved and do some homework. I'm not going to do it all for you. It's a team effort, and that makes all the difference. So thank you for pointing that out.
There's no way to state that strong enough. Especially if you could be the old concept of a donkey and a 2x4, and I can plant it on everybody's forehead, please do. Because the fact is, we really, really have to stand up for it. Look, when you get to the point that you're about to be put on the street, just think about the fact what you could have done if you followed Nancy's advice and the rest of them earlier. So please get out there. Take care of something for yourself. Go to work.
Yes, advocate for yourself. You deserve it.
Yeah, and then again, from our perspective as helping seniors, Joe Steckler, our president and founder, he's like the most tireless. He's been running a series of articles. He does the columns there in Hometown News and Aldea Today, Ebony News Today, all those different Barefoot Tattler, all these different areas because he's really trying to communicate and get not only seniors to wake up about this and understand this is a real problem, but also the families that love and care for them. And then, we really have to have the help with our governing leaders to at least acknowledge, like, this is a problem. This is going on.
You just gave a lead-in. One thing I wanted to make sure was mentioned today is the fact that we're coming, and we only have a few minutes left, but we are coming up on an unusual year as far as the elections are concerned. We are having a situation in which about every state representative that you have for in Florida is coming up for a re-election. You have the fact that we will have a governor. We have some of his staff that are coming up. We have a U.S. senator, and there's a number of U.S. congressmen coming up for re-election. So one of the ways to get out there and make sure that you're heard on this issue, whether you are now a senior or eventually will become one, is be ready to go out there and tell them about this problem.
Yeah,
make sure the fact that they understand this. So
this is the year they'll be listening, right?
You're right. It doesn't say they're going to listen 10 minutes later, but the fact is, get out there and make sure we really put the pressure on and make it happen.
All right, thanks. That's Phil Koechlein, who's with AARP Volunteer and also Vice Chair of the Brevard Commission on Aging. And I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to thank you, Vinnie Richardson, with the I'm going to make sure I say it right, the Housing Foundation of America, Inc. And call Nancy and get that information at 321-473.
I definitely need to talk.
Absolutely. 321-473-7770 to reach Nancy. Thank you, Nancy, for helping us host this whole conversation. It's so important.
Thank you. And thank you, Vinnie, and thank you, Phil. It was so great to be on the radio with you and discuss this important issue.
Yeah, we're going to continue this conversation. Join us next Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM WEJF, and we'll have more great information for you on Helping Seniors Radio.